Okay, guys, welcome to PA Talks episode 35 and welcome to this live session. My name is Hamid Hasanzadeh. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Parametric Architecture platform. It's really great to see you guys again. It's been a while. We were not doing any live shows. So on this episode 35 of PA Talks, we're going to invite a very famous and young and talented Turkish architect whose name is Alper Derinbogaz. Alper Derinbogaz has been recognized as an engineer, emerging and influential architect in Turkey and in Europe, founder of architectural practice called Salon. His work investigates the possibilities of physical environment through the relationship between space and time. His designs vary from large-scale cultural institutions to art installations, united by the desire to uncover the questions, the essential elements of the site and concept. So, just in a couple of seconds, I'm inviting Alper Derinbogaz. Hello, Alper.
Hi, Hamid. Hello. Hello,
Nice to meet
everyone.
you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to PA Talks episode 35, and thanks for joining.
Thanks for inviting. It's a pleasure. My one of few live Instagram talks
Yes,
with you.
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of questions we're going to get from audience. Just before we start the conversation, guys, if you have any questions to ask Alper, just write them in the question box down below. I'll be exploring them during the conversation. So if you have any questions from Alper, please write them in the question box down below. We may close the comments to increase the quality of the video. In case you have any questions, write them in the question box down below. So welcome, Alper. I want to start the conversation by going back to history. Since I've been knowing you, it's been from, I think, since 2015, I've been knowing you. I've been following your works, and they're quite admirable. Venice Architecture Biennale or Museum of Istanbul. We're going to discuss about these projects, and particularly your recent projects and Istiklal Caddesi as well. But and also recently I visited your in the office Salon in Istanbul. Recently, it was, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, and we were wearing t-shirts. So before going to conversation, I just want to ask to briefly introduce yourself, and just tell us, how did you become an architect, and also how did you start your office Salon?
Yes, thank you for nice entry. I hope I don't disappoint you guys
No
for this
worries.
great introduction. I've been an architect. I decided to be an architect because essentially I was interested in art and science, and one of architect friends by the time recommended that architecture can be kind of between art and science. I'm not sure if that is in the practical architectural matter, but I thought it could be a good place to explore it, and I think I was kind of right. I like it. I like it when I started studying in school. I think the strange thing about architecture is, like, in a lot of the art oriented things, you can really start in earlier ages to draw and all that, but in architecture you really need tools to really make architecture. So I think it's a late growing kind of art, but I was kind of happy with that, and things evolved very quickly. I was studying in school, doing a lot of internships here and there in the offices I would like and stuff, and they started paying me. I was like very early in the education, but still it was very exciting to be really part of the projects and get some responsibility and all that. So I recommend it to everyone, like early times, I think you are much more open to learn things and unlearn the school basics and make a different perspective. So it was very helpful. And then the school was nice. We had amazing teachers and instructors and very inspiring people, not an ordinary architecture education, I would say. I was lucky to work with a couple of very interesting studio instructors. And then it was US. There was this kind of award scholarship whatsoever gave me a chance to.
You were at the UCLA, right?
Yes. Masters in UCLA. It was an interesting school. It was like California. California has SCI-Arc, UCLA, and many other schools. But I thought it could be nice to see different parts of the education also, like from the movies, from business. So I always enjoyed different parts of learning, different parts of life coming together. And I think what architecture is essentially about. So it was a very interesting opportunity, and things evolved. Like I studied with Tom Main. I was once an intern for his office. I worked with many interesting. I was crossed by. I mean, I was in the studio of the Frank Gehry also, Greg Lean, all these amazing guys, and they were really inspiring. And also, it was inspiring people too, like the friends. By the time I met there and all that. So when I was back in Turkey in 2010, also there were a lot of new opportunities, and you could test out different things, and it was a lot of interesting invitations by the time. So things evolved quickly, and then I started my practice.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes,
and called it Salon.
Yes. Where did you start it? You have a story
yes.
on it.
Yes. I mean, I was teaching in school by the time, and I didn't essentially have a classroom. Like I was teaching for master's degree, and I didn't. I was maybe one of the only teachers. I was not having a studio, and then we were stuck around the Salon. It was called Salon E or something. I don't remember. And then also in my home, I was working from Salon. It is a living room essentially, and I was reading this story about French salons by the time. So
Yes.
how the revolution started, initiated by the Salon meetings and stuff. So I thought it was an interesting name.
Yes. So your passion and interest stretches beyond typical boundaries of architecture, from explorations across multiple disciplines and cultural contexts, such as augmented structures, art installations, and also architecture buildings, and many other activities. What is the inspiration behind working in multiple scales, and how does this affect your architecture?
Yes, I mean, I think, always a bit distracted with a lot of different things. And like in a world that you have to be really focused on certain things, and like you only have to work on that, like you have to spend 10,000 hours and all that. I believe it has a very important angle, but I think we are also.
But the way you say distracted, is it some kind of like a negative point, you say?
No, I mean, in the world of in today's world, or maybe yesterday's world, it could be considered a negative thing, but then I think there are very positive things you can find inside. So you can really tie different parts. Like if you could be interested in art, you could be interested in science. I'm not sure if this is gonna be applying for all these other professions, because like then if you are making science, then you possibly need to be very specific in what you are doing. But in architecture is a very rough science. You can't really frame it. Every time, everything, every program, every location is a complete new adventure. So it is very open to different things. So I think it was a positive thing.
Yes. And how does this affect your architecture? Like working in different scales, how it affects?
Working in different scales is great and terrifying also. I remember in 2000, it was 2008 or 9 maybe. It was a panorama, my first build work. It was a collaboration between British Council and some art institution, and I was working with Andreas Fogaras. He's a Austrian artist, nice, very nice guy. He's a dropout architecture student. He quit school and decided doing art, and I kind of quit art and decided doing architecture. So it was a nice collaboration. And I designed something it was a steel structure, one very experimental stuff, hanging. It was hanging a huge disc, a huge white disc, and it was looking like almost floating in the air. Like we developed the steel details and all that, and then everything was on paper. And 2 weeks later, we saw it on the site. I mean, this might be a very small thing for a lot of the architects, but it was huge. Like seeing, like you do models, you do mock-ups and all that, but still seeing it on site is completely insane. And then I thought architects have a really huge responsibility, because you see that and then you start thinking a lot of things could go wrong. Like these metal wires could snap, like it could broke, like there was strong
Absolutely.
wind. You calculate everything, you make models, and you imagine everything. You try to imagine everything, but in the real scale is a completely different thing, and it has a lot of different dimensions. And I think in today's world, today architecture world, we don't really, we can't really do a great job, because with all the respect, car makers, industrial designers, the amount of time and the amount of models they do before they develop a single object is amazingly in proportionally huge compared to what we spend in architecture. So
Right.
I think is both a super exciting work, almost like a roller coaster or snowboarding, or I don't know, like one of these extreme sports, and it also has a huge responsibility, I think.
Yes. Amazing.
That's why, yeah, that's one of the things I think excited me by the time.
Yes. And talking about one of your projects back in 2011, you gained a good recognition with one of your projects called Augmented Structures, which you worked with Refik Anadol as well. Refik was in this show previously as well. He talked
really?
about,
Nice.
yeah, he talked about this project, and he always mentions your name, Alper Derinbogaz. We did that project with Alper Derinbogaz. So I know his
amazing friend. Yes.
Yes, exactly. I know his point of view, like a bit of like artistic look to this project. But on the other side, I want your point of view as well. The way this project showcased the architectural structures and facade elements inside the facade of a building. It was projected to the facade of a building. It was so amazing. Can you talk about this project, and what was the feedback from the audience while they were watching this project? In 2011, I was not here. I didn't experience it personally, but I heard the stories. I read a lot about it. Can you talk about it?
Yes, it was it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to work with Refik, a really long time good friend. We still work on different projects, some confidential works, also some public things that's gonna come up hopefully. That time was very exciting. It was like a booming time of Istanbul by the time, and then it was the Biennale time. It was the Art Biennale opening time by the time we were doing the show, and Yapı Kredi invited us, Tülay Hanım invited us, yes, this piece, and Yapı Kredi invited us to make a large exhibition, and then we were like, instead of an exhibition, instead of talking about ideas, we could actually do it, and people can experience it. So we decided we make a proposal for the facade, and this is it. This was we prepared like 3 different options to present Tülay Hanım, the head of the Yapı Kredi Culture. Very nice lady, like very intellectual and engaged with the project. And we thought this was gonna be impossible to execute. So we had some backup projects, but she confirmed the project, and we were like super excited about it, and a little bit terrified also, because everything needed to be produced in a month or 2 months, and we had to design everything in a month. So it was like not more than 2.5 months in total, the design and construction of the project. It was we used all the digital fabrication technologies, so everything is produced by CNC and laser cutting and precise production methods, because it needed to be exactly fit with the imagery. So it was a quite challenging thing, and was a very short time development. And the structure is designed very lightweight, because there's an existing facade, and like you cannot hang too many things, but it's a huge surface, so you have to consider wind loads and all that. So, and these pieces had to be applied in the site only in a day or so, because it is a very busy road. You can't get permissions and all that. So it was a very technically very intense project, and we developed everything in Rhino, Grasshopper. We tested a lot of things in different softwares, tensile structure softwares, and we also used a lot of sound processing components, and we turned them into 3-dimensional data. So we practically did everything that was taught in school, which we didn't really apply before, and all these ideal production methods went into that, and it worked, and it was one of our very early work. It's 400 square meter facade construction, combined with digital data, digital visualization. It was combined like a globe. It was fit into each other. So I think it still is one of the only piece in this scale.
Yeah, amazing. One of your most anticipated projects that is being, I'm waiting for it as well, is your Museum of Istanbul project, which is near completion. Can you talk about the challenges that you had with this project during the design process? And because the location and the understanding of the project is related to the history of Istanbul. Can you talk about this cultural background of this project as well?
Yes, it's a very exciting project. It's another exciting project for us. It's going since 2015, so it has been more than 5 years we are working on the project, and I was quite depressed about it. And then I met Semra Hanım, which is who just opened Republic Orchestra of Opera back in Ankara, after 22 years of construction, and I was an intern in that project, and it took quite a long time. Then I understood that really this kind of scale projects really take time, but in that case is the challenge. It takes time, because cultural institutions needs to align with it. We work with public institutions, so they have their own expectations, and they sometimes change. To you, the project is very specific. It sits on a very specific site. We are close to the historic urban land walls, Byzantine land walls. we still relate to them, and we try to engage it in a very interesting way. We are describing Istanbul is a very one of the most complex cities. It is called a megalopolis. It's beyond metropolis kind of thing, and it has a very fragmented history. And one of the other challenges is how do you kind of relate to the Istanbul or symbolic meaning of Istanbul. So there are many different relationships. You see the site plan here in connection with the urban land boss. The building is waiting just in the middle of the historic Istanbul and the modern Istanbul. So it's in an inflection point, everything changes, the urban landscape changes, the buildings, the functions, everything changes in this point. So it is in an inflection point. So if you can use this contrast and make it into something important, then things can evolve very nicely and quickly. This is what we hoped as we were designing it. And it was an amazing team we worked with. I want to mention everyone, but it's more than 20 different teams worked in the design, and more than 20 or 30 people, academicians, curators, worked on the curatorial contents of the project. So we had consultants from London to Los Angeles, to a lot of different cities, from Austria. We worked with very interesting structural designers, and it was a very layered kind of teamwork. We also used BIM techniques, which was pretty much one of the first buildings that is done in terms of the public commissions. It was one of the very few BIM application, and also we use different technologies on the facade. So many complications, maybe different interview subject.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, brilliant. A great project.
Thank you.
Recently, you have finished an adaptive reuse project in Istanbul, which is located in Istiklal Caddesi, one of the crowded hearts of the country.
Yes.
And it is called Fitaş Passage, if I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah, Fitaş Passage. Can you talk about the most important aspects of this project that differentiates the building from the conventional passage?
Is a very historically very important building, also very important for me, because when I was studying, we used to go to movie theater there, like, you know, with your girlfriend, like you hang out there, and it was a very lively part of the street. So but it was originally built as a passage. People were supposed to go inside and come out at the other street. So it was actually a passage thing. And there's like the shopping malls of the time. They're very fancy shopping malls, are like today. They're very interesting to the public and all that. But then it didn't really work like that, because it is Istiklal Street, the Grand Rue Pera by the old name, has faced a lot of social changes. So it was used differently. And we wanted to bring this kind of importance of the building back into the Istiklal Street. And we wanted, this is a very historic area, as you know, and we always see the historic buildings and all that. But this was actually a modern building, which lost its modernity, which lost its contemporary vibe. So we wanted to give the feeling of the people that the street still is evolving, and it is open to change, and it's gonna bring new things. And that's pretty much how it is, how we designed it. And also we wanted to bring kind of verticality of the buildings into the street, because all around the world we experience this kind of street situation, shopping street situation. The shopping streets turn into shopping malls, and like all the ground floors are utilized, but then above floors are kind of dull and not working exactly as they should be, because it's a different society, different culture, and different needs of today. And we wanted to bring this vertical use, so we wanted to make it a vertical street and kind of applied this concept into the building. And we kind of did a shop mix regarding that. And also we proposed kind of a certain facade that implies what is going on inside the building. And of course, when you are looking from inside, you can frame different angles of the Taksim Square, of the street, of people. You have a public balcony where you can come out and take your coffee or enjoy the view and all that. So we wanted to bring this publicness into the project as designing it.
Yes.
And yes, this is how it looks.
Amazing.
At the end. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You want to continue about this project, or shall I move forward?
I think this is pretty much that. I mean, there are interesting fabrication technologies we again used. We always try to, even if it's a simple facade. I mean, this is not a very complex form to work on. Although it's a very simple facade, we always work from 3D model, from precise dimensions to the 3D model, and then we make it into reality. This way you get a precise result. So this is what is different. I mean, if you look at the historic buildings, they're always relating to the context and different geometries, but this is a new fabrication method, and I think it has a sense. It has a sense when you reflect it into building.
Yeah, amazing. And also recently you have published an educational center project, which is connecting two parts of the university. It is, I think, Yıldız Technical University in Istanbul. The project is called Ecoton. And can you briefly discuss about this project as well?
Yes, it is one of the very fun projects we have been working on. It is again an interesting brief. We are located on top of a car park, so we can't really have foundations, and there's a lot of wind here. So, and the earthquake situation. So we had a lot of constraints, and then we started the project, designing the project, considering all the constraints and all that, and then Corona happened by the time, and we were under lockdown when we were commissioned to design the building, and surprisingly, client wanted to continue with the project. They were very enthusiastic about the project, and we were just developing our first proposal. And again, above these kind of situations, we had the Corona issue, because people needed to be able to work here, although there's Corona or other things, because this is they are still using the offices. There are many operations that needs to be on site, and they were considering to still be in this place. So bringing the Corona situation and all the other things, we come up with this design. What this design tries to achieve is to, even though there's this constructional or structural challenge of earthquake and non-foundation building, we still wanted to develop a thin and slim column into the project. And to do that, we decided we just do the column stronger in the parts where it is needed. So we make it more slender column, but we make it more stronger on the edges. So this was a structural idea turned into an architectural language, and it was reflected all over the place. And what is also interesting, what was interesting about this process is we were able to use a lot of the areas as open areas, because we proposed that these are the meeting places. These small gardens in between the buildings could become garden gardens and meeting places, open meeting places. Because maybe in Turkish architecture or maybe architecture in Istanbul, is we are a little bit too much on the comfortable side all the time. Maybe it's the European influence, maybe it's the Western architectural history whatsoever, but I think there's amazing weather and we don't take advantage of it. And together with Corona, I think we needed brighter spaces with more fresh air. And this is you can't beat the open weather in this sense. So we integrated these pieces into the project, and it took the project in a more interesting level, we thought, and client liked it. Although against all the challenges, client liked it, and we used taking courage from this approval. We used a lot of ecological air conditioning and conditioning methods embedded into building. We use displacement system. We use fan coils in combination with that. So we use all technology, and we also use automated operating window systems. So these are all integrated together. It became a more green building at the end. It doesn't look green only, but it operates green also.
Yes, that is an important point, actually. And talking about COVID-19 and seeing this project, how do you see what is your vision about the future? And also, according to your experience, how can architecture help in transforming the post-pandemic world?
Yes, good question. I think it's a very important question to focus on, because like in this project, as architects, we can take things into a more positive place. We always are commissioned to do buildings, but I think we should be focused on making spaces. What it means is that we don't really always have to make buildings. We can, there's landscaping, of course, there's semi-open places, there are good natural settings. You can even sometimes build a wall and develop kind of important conditions, comfortable conditions. And you can also look at the program, like can I take a lot of the spaces outside, or should I have to enclose people and develop more enclosure and all that. So I think this COVID situation forces us to look at things differently in terms of the open spaces or in combination with other spaces. So we wanted to, we as architects should really be careful about it and take it as an advantage. Beyond that, the conditioning systems are quite important. We keep using the submarine system. So what we basically learn in school, or what we practice in architecture, is a submarine proposal, which is an enclosure, and you put some clean air, and then when it's so dirty, you take some out, but you still keep a lot of the dirty air inside. And we call it conditioning. It's a terrible system. We have been using it for ages because it's an industry standard and all that. And now I think it's a good time to change it. Like before these high-tech buildings, we used to use windows, passive cooling, cross ventilation and all that, and we completely forget about those. So I think we can be more flexible in that, and we can come up with different ideas. Maybe we can propose less comfortable situations, but more sustainable and more healthy environments. So it's an amazing opportunity to propose different things.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And I've heard from yourself that you like philosophy as well. And can you discuss the relationship between architecture and philosophy, and who do you follow as a philosopher, and how does this philosophy How do you implement, or how do you do it in your architecture?
Philosophy is quite important. I can't really take the place of the philosophers in any sense, but I really enjoy it, and I think there's a philosophy in architecture. I think we architects are developing kind of philosophy in every building that you can't really maybe talk about it, because language is a way that you can propose, you can develop philosophy, but there's other languages like spatial experience, like art, like other things that is also talking, and that's also language, and that also has a philosophy. Maybe it doesn't exactly correspond to a single philosophy, but I think we architects are philosophers, or we need to be in this sense, in a different sense. So I really think it's important to give you names. I can give you a lot of names, but I was watching this amazing documentary about. I'm really influenced by a lot of land artists, and I was watching this documentary about them, and Robert Simonson, Michael Heiser, and all these amazing guys. And one of them was explaining why land art was interesting to him. So he was proposing that there's an idea, you could paint it, or in our case, you could make a building and you could sell it, or it could have a price, let's say before in the case of architecture, and it became valuable. So it's a building in a certain context, certain price. But what is he proposing is, you have an idea, and the idea is important, and you should get paid for the idea, not the building. So they would come up with different ideas, develop in different lands, different contexts. It is of course contextual, but still the idea is so important that it could come out in different places. So it's not sold as a piece of art, or is not sold as a piece of building, but or part of building, but it was the idea. I think it's a very influential thing to think about. We tend to quantify things with a lot of physicality, and we forget how important the ideas about them. And that's why we kind of end up spending a lot of money, in a lot of projects. We are also involved in large-scale projects, and we don't end up with good results. So I think this is a very important case to look at. Can we give more importance into idea comparing to physicality, especially in terms of architecture, in the situation of architecture? It might be very outrageous for some people to think about it, like we are using a lot of building material and all that, but I think it's very important.
Absolutely.
So a lot of different people has their different names in terms of philosophy, but I find a lot of philosophy in art. A lot of the land artists I follow. In the school time, I was a lot of interested in Deleuze and all those other French, Derrida, and all the other French writers by the time, and I still am interested. But there are more to that, and most recently, of course, Timothy Morton is an amazing philosopher. Maybe not everybody calls him as a philosopher, but I think it's very interesting the way he looks at the building. I think looking at things is half the seeing, or more than the seeing, or more than the thinking.
Yes.
So, object-oriented ontology, or it's very complicated sometimes, like it is sometimes very, very aesthetical ideas and all that. But in the essence of it, we actually are one together with all the living things and non-living things. Is an amazing approach. This kind of resolves a lot of things. Like, we fight each other, we fight Corona, we fight. The life is a fight, and he brings a completely different way of looking at
Yes,
it. And I think it's amusing.
absolutely. Thank you.
There's also Mark Fisher, who suicided. He has he's not very influential in terms of the architecture maybe, but in terms of the society we live in and the fake world we live in. And then he wrote this Capitalist Realism, I guess, was the book, name of the book. It's very influential. It explains a lot of psychological problems we are having in this world, and it explains how everybody is related in that. And it's amazing how we don't see it. So I think it's not exactly in terms of architecture, but also very influential writer, I would say.
Yeah, brilliant. Great names. Thank you. And you're also one of the architects in Turkey who uses mostly like advanced design tools such as parametric and computational tools as well in your designs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think computational and parametric design tools have changed the way that we do architecture in the last 20 years?
It changed. I think it changed a lot. A lot of the architects are very resistant against it. A lot of the people are against it. But even we don't want it, it comes out in the process. Not in our case. We really enjoy using all the digital tools, and I think they are important. But a lot of people, even they avoided it. Then now they are working with it because everybody is doing models, renderings, and this digital information. The idea becomes a digital idea, like one, let's say, fuzzy idea in our brain becomes a digital idea. And then this digital idea is so, it has so many reflections. It can reflect into the site. It can reflect into the drawings. It can reflect into the CNC machine and all that. At the end, this is very strong and it changes all the construction industry. So I think we shouldn't avoid it. We should try to learn how we can use it more intelligently. I think it's very important. And I'm not sure if all the architects are taking advantage of it, but I think as architects, we still have a lot of things to think about. And I think it's important. If you look at the human race, if you take out the technology, we are nothing different than animal. I mean, a lot of the different creatures live a life. They feel things. They make couples. They make babies. They maybe are more peaceful than us, maybe happier than us. But if you take out technology, there's not much. If you bring in they don't use technology. If you bring in technology, it's completely different. So I think we have a very broken relationship with technology. We can't avoid it, and there are always two sides of it. Like one extremist who enjoy technology, who enjoy future, and then they do crazy things. And then there's this other group that they hate technology. They don't want to use it. They're always against it, but they end up using it, and then they don't want to think about it. They think it's wrong and all that. So I think there's this broken relationship with technology. How we can be more critical and more specific about using technology is a very important subject, and I hope my architect friends also consider looking at it in more detail.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. They should better to do that. Okay, how do you define a good architecture, Alper? What is the characteristics of a good architecture?
Good architecture. Good question. Possibly, if you find it, you become the great architect.
Yeah, hard to answer.
Yes. It's a complex question. I think a lot of people try to find that answer. But I think it's very important. I think the good architecture exists. Like we usually discuss styles, approaches, technologies, and all that. But at the end, there are good architects and bad architects. Like or bad architecture, good architecture and bad architecture. I can't say good. Some good architects do terrible architecture. Some bad architects do amazing buildings. So I can't really generalize it, but there are certain results. There are certain amazing results that make ourselves move, makes the people live inside happy. It contributes to humanity. When you see it, it's like listening some special music or seeing certain type of interesting art. It changes your opinion. It changes. You start believing that good things can happen in the world, and the world can change, and different things can happen in the world. So I think if you are able to think about this when you are visiting this kind of architecture piece, I think that's exactly good architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any dream project or vision, perhaps, of something that you might bring to reality as your architecture magic?
Mm-hmm. In terms of the project, I think we are happily occupied with a lot of interesting projects. So I'm happy with what we are doing. I won't describe the happy or great commission, but I think it could be very interesting size. I really enjoy working in nature. It's very hard. It's extremely hard because you need to engage it in a very delicate way, and also it's very very nice to work in this context because you learn a lot from nature, and you have a lot of opportunities to ask to yourself how this nature is so amazing, and then how the situation of architecture is so terrifyingly terrible, and then what we can learn, like what can I do not to ruin it, not to ruin this beautiful setting. So sometimes in certain natural settings, you wish your building can disappear. Sometimes you propose something that is happily together with the nature. So I would say, specific natural settings would be a very amazing place to work on, small or big.
Amazing, awesome. What do you think about our platform, PA?
I roughly met you guys, I think around the time I met you. Like in our team, we have these amazing people interested in a lot of things, and they're like, oh, you have to see this platform and all that. So it was, and then when I looked at it, it's very courageous. It brings a lot of specific projects together in a certain direction. And in this world of grayness, I felt great seeing the platform because things really start to look like each other after a certain time. And it was unique, and you brought different things together courageously. So it was my impression.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And lastly, you have lectured in many universities, and also with all these experience that you have in practice, what kind of advice would you like to share with students and young professionals?
Young professionals, is amazing to be an architecture student, I would say. It is literally the best times of my life. So it should be a lot of fun. If it is not fun, it can be very painful. So maybe one of my teammates Ece was mentioning about it. There's what she proposes is like that. There's a very thin line between stress and excitement. You could be very excited and you could be enjoying it a lot, or you could be really
Stressed about it.
stressed about it. And there's a millimeter or millisecond difference in between those. So I think for a lot of you is in your hands, and try to get excited with your projects, with whatever you are seeing, whatever you are dealing with. Architecture is an amazing profession. I mean, I don't need to talk about it. A lot of people know about it possibly, but I think you have to, even you design objects, or even you come up with softwares and all that. This is something you do every couple of months. You have to design something, you have to realize something, and it really becomes part of people's life. So I think it's an exciting profession, and people maybe find their own exciting dimension on it. And I think this is what you guys should look for. It has multiple layers, and you want to see what's exciting about it. And you will face a lot of teachers, studio instructors, competitions. You will lose a lot of competitions. You will miss a lot of chances and all that, and then you'll be criticized at a certain time. But they're amazing. They're amazing too, because what you are doing is a huge responsibility, and every negative thing you're facing is an opportunity to make it better. So try to consider it that way. And when you have the chance to do something, to build something, even you work in the office, be a very small part of it, go see it on the construction site somehow. It's an amazing experience. Like, you drove something and it's realized in the site, is in the scale, and becomes part of life. It becomes part of work. So I think it's a very exciting thing. So there's a unique chance, and reading was very important in my time. I'm not very old, but I sometimes feel old. Like, I was proposing this, one of my teammates again. Like, I was proposing this movie, and she told me, like, we don't really watch movies. So considering people don't watch movies, I can't propose a lot of books. But like, drawing with books with a lot of nice drawings, monographs, magazines, they were really exciting, and I learned a lot. There's a lot of self-teaching in architecture, obviously, as maybe a lot of the people experience. So I would collect some money to buy this, like, huge books and all that, and then I was happy with all those, and I thought they were really inspirational. Maybe
Yes.
that's the second advice I could give.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. It was really inspiring discussion. I really appreciate your time. Do you have any final words to add to this conversation?
Thank you for inviting. This is pretty much that. I think a lot of architects watch it. I think you have an interesting time to change things and make the world better. And beyond money or financial things, I know it's very hard for a lot of people not to think about it. It's the reality of the life. But I think you should look for some meaning in terms of architecture. Otherwise, architecture is not a very profitable work to work on. So looking for meaning in architecture is a very exciting journey, and I wish you a lot of luck in your journey.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alper.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining, and I really appreciate for this inspiring discussion.
Thank you for inviting.
Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of PA Talks, number 35. Thanks for joining. Just three things before continue and end this live session. Computational Design Next 4.0 on 17th and 18th of April. It will happen. It's a 2-day conference. You can register now. And also Eco-Parametric Structures, a studio run by Arthur Mamamani. You can check our website, and just a couple of seats left. You can register to that one as well. And also Architectural Follies, a studio workshop by Eric Carcamo. Also again from Pacademy. You can check that website, our website, and register as well. So these 3 points, and also you can check our workshop page for other events. And we really appreciate for your time. If in case you had any questions, just don't hesitate to DM us or send us an email. Until another episode, another architect, another interview, have a nice day, stay safe and stay healthy. Goodbye.